This week in comic books, we find out the origin of Bruce Wayne's attraction to cat burglars. I think would be the proper way to say it. Over in the land of Marvel, we get a new Iron Fist, and I'm actually excited about this. This is kind of interesting. And in the land of Independence, we get a little lesser known historical lesson about World War II. All that, some other comic books that I picked up, plus a couple of impulse buys that I bought this week. So yeah, we got some other things too. So definitely stick around. Let's roll an intro. Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, I'm super happy that you swung by. If you don't know, I read comic books. I'm a middle-aged man. I take a bunch of notes on them, and then I regurgitate anything interesting that I've found in them back to you. So without further ado, let's skidoo right into this week's comic book, starting with The Knight. So this is interesting. Issue 1, we know that this is Bruce Wayne when he was, as a young man, learning to be, Batman. He had to go learn all these skills. So this, of course, takes him to France, Paris, France. And if you don't know, that's where characters like Ducar and fencing and like he learned all that kind of stuff there. But what's interesting is they kind of took a little turn here. We got some Ducar, and we find out that he used to be on the police station, and he's really good at finding people. Like that's his deal, right? But what they did in here is they brought in another character called the Gray Shadow. She's a cat burglar, a little sexy minx, older sexy minx, but nevertheless, of course, Bruce Wayne takes a pass at her because he's extremely attracted to her, and of course, it's awkward. So they have to steal something in here that kind of leads to this killer, this serial killer that's around Paris at the time. Ducar's been brought in to find out who these people are. At the end, he finds Gray Shadow and Bruce Wayne, of course. So I think there's going to be a little transition there. Like, I'm learning to be a cat burglar and stealthy. Now I need to learn how to find cat burglars and people that are stealthy. I think is where the transition is going to go here. And there's a murderer running around. So that kind of intrigues me some. This is really lifted since issue 1. So I'm intrigued by this. I'll be picking up some more of that. Next, Batman Detective Comics. So this is a filler issue. We got the Arkham Tower. We know the Doctor's crooked. We know he's peddling drugs. We know Psycho Pirate is kind of keeping everybody subdued and cured there, if you will. And of course, this is all with the backing of the Penguin, hence the title. And I love this title. Feels good to be a gangster. Uh, it's funny. So we know that that's in there. We got the Party Crashers, but then we got a whistleblower, and now we got drama, right? Because we got somebody who's going to rat everybody out. The Bat family that's there, the female Bat players and Nightwing are all kind of involved in here. And we also know that they're playing with people's memories as Psycho Pirate kind of takes over their consciousness. And it's interesting. I just don't know if I care. The secondary story in here, that one I'm interested in. We got a young kid. He's in Arkham because he's criminally insane. But as the place, there's some disruption there. And there's a big escape, and Bane comes in with his ultimate, I was born in the dark type monologue that he gives to this kid about rising up beyond his situation and doing better, which in any other context, in a hero's context, it would be an uplifting one, right? But we're dealing with murderers and killers in here, so it kind of subverts that expectation that this kid could be more of a criminal than more of himself. So I really like the secondary story in here. It's so fascinating to me, to the point to where I'm just like, I want more. I wish that was the main story in it. I really do. Next, we got Iron Fist. This was the only cover I could pick up. I don't know who this character is. I'm sure it has something to do with Gwen. I think that's what we're celebrating this week, which is weird. But if you don't know, we get Swordmaster in here. But he's not Swordmaster anymore. His sword has been shattered to the point, and pieces of it have been embedded in him along as scattered. So now the demon wants to put it back together because it's a mystical weapon type of thing. And he's been kind of kind of forced into collecting are these shards. Now, he's also been under the tutelage of the great people that, of course, host the Iron Fist himself. Lung Cow? Lung Cow? Yeah. Anyway, so we kind of get the story of how he ended up with the family there, but there's something suspicious going on with the family, as the dad's probably a demon as well, and when the person has to go out and get the shards, brings them back to his place. I'm sure it makes it easier, but will he become the next Iron Fist, or is he just like a wannabe hang around? We saw some Danny Rand action in here. We find out he's still in action, even though he doesn't have his superpowers. He's just a guy that knows a lot of kung fu. And I love all the, and I don't want to like offend anybody, but like all the moves, he has to say the name of all the moves. So like, like drunken wrench, tiger stance, or whatever. He mentions all that kind of stuff in here, and I'm just like, it's funny. I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know kung fu. I just know crazy. But it's a fun book, and it's a crazy book, and I enjoy it. I'm not a huge Swordmaster fan. I remember his first appearance. I remember a lot of the stuff he did in War of the Realms, one of my favorite reads. I highly recommend it too for anybody out there. A lot of these newer generation of superheroes are being kind of in here. So I really like this because, again, it's something that I've mentioned before. We don't have to swap a character so everybody feels inclusive. I think that everybody in their culture have their own unique and rich story, mythos, and we can add that stuff into comic books. And they're really doing that in this, and I think they're doing a good job of it in this particular issue. Next, Hulk. I know, I'm still reading it. A lot of people are like Spaceship Hulk, and I get it, right? It's Spaceship Hulk. I get it, but in this we actually get a very different version of this particular Earth, and I want to say, did I write it down? I did. It's Earth 122. I don't know much about this particular Earth. It's hard to keep track of multiversal stuff, but in this, General Ross is President Ross. There was a big accident that happened with the explosion, kind of like an Oppenheimer type of thing during the big nuclear bomb testings, and apparently it affected some people. And the government came down and shut all this stuff down. Like the X-Men were like a thing for like a hot second, shut down. Nuclear blast wiped the entire Xavier school off the planet. And apparently they round up all these superpowered individuals and kind of keep them contained. What we find out is Peter Parker in this was a research assistant for Bruce Banner, or this world's Bruce Banner. And apparently he was infected by a spider with this particular type of radiation. I think we're still talking about gamma at this point. They didn't specify it. And Ross is like, hey, Bruce, if you don't shut off the Spaceship Hulk thing, I'm dropping this kid to his death. He tries to shut him down, doesn't do it in time, pushes him out of a plane, and then we get like a gamma infected SpiderMan, but not the one that we saw before. Like we've seen this before, but this one is very menacing, very tall, very deadly, right? It's not just a Spider-Man / Hulk, it's like a villain, right? So I thought that was interesting. I like that different take on it. And I'll probably read a little bit more of this. I don't know how much farther I'm going to take the spaceship thing. Like I thought they were going to go do something really cool with psychology and the subconscious mind and outer shell of the body. Yeah, they're doing it, but they're not really like diving into it like they did with Immortal Hulk. They're just kind of keeping that shallow and keeping the action, which we got some action. So that's enough to kind of make me hold on for another couple of issues to see where this goes. Spider-Man, number 89. So this was solicited as the origin of Goblin Queen, and that took like 3 panels. She was made in a laboratory, or infused in a laboratory, or created, enhanced in a laboratory. I think would probably be the right thing. But her powers, oh, that's what was kind of weird in here. So she's got this stare, right? I don't want to say like Ghost Rider. I think this is a little bit more menacing. She brings out all your insecurities, all those little doubts and things that you say in your head. And even in this one, to the point to where it drove Black Cat to being okay with suicide. And like all the little voices, you're not good enough. You're a failure. Like all these little doubts, and if you've met anybody that has openly admitted to such a thing as offing themselves, you hear these kind of things come from them. I thought that was pretty deep for the writer to do. Thank God they didn't harp on it because they could have gotten real depressed, real sad, real fast, right? And by the way, if you are one of these people that are experiencing these little fleeting thoughts inside of your head, get help. There's a link in the description and a phone number. I always try to offer that whenever I have to talk about this subject because it's uncomfortable, right? It's an uncomfortable situation, but in order to bring awareness to it, sometimes you got to show it for what it is, and you definitely saw that in here. So yeah, definitely very touching issue in this. Plus Spider-Man's back up and of course he saves her at the last minute, and a lot of good stuff happens from there. But yeah, this is pretty wicked. So definitely, again, if you're one of those people, definitely check the link out below. Talk to somebody. Next, Thor 22. So that's it. Beta Ray Bill has had enough, and we get his epic call to action. This is number 22, by the way. Gives his epic call to action. All the superheroes, well, a lot of the superheroes, like show up to battle Mjolnir, or the living incarnation of Mjolnir, infused with Monrog, right? And that happens. The battle starts breaking out, and then we find out something we never knew before. Odin gave Thor the Odin Force back in the day to kind of make him king and everything, but he was selfish, and he openly admit this, and didn't give him to him fully because we find out it would actually kill him. In this book, he sacrifices so his son can defeat the bad, right? He sacrifices all the Odin Force over to his son, and then, right, the battle can commence. So now we have, well, it wouldn't be Odin Force anymore, I guess. I guess we got to call it something else now. Yeah, the Thor Force, I guess, is what we're going to be calling it into the next issue now. This is great. This is good stuff. The mother, the family giving up their powers to defeat this. I don't know how to put it. Bitter. I think bitter would be the right word. This bitter force that's been raging. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Let's see here. Next, Venom. So you noticed I've actually been liking everything I've read up to this point. Yeah, there's been a couple things I'm like, ugh, right? This was probably the most boringest thing I read this week. Our antagonist in here is basically a symbiote King in Black type character. He's got all the other King in Black type characters throughout time, kind of trapped on a world that is the black goo that is Venom, of symbiotes that are dormant but made it into a garden. It's just way over convoluted. And then we find out in it that, at one point he looked like Eddie Brock when Eddie Brock came to talk to Dylan before this whole issue started. And then we find out he was the one on the ship of the symbiote that kind of broke away and killed everybody. We kind of get, it's heavy. It's heavy contented and very much reliant that you understand the story up to this point, which they should, right? These things are numbered for a reason. Okay? But I can see a lot of people's complaints with this. It's like it seems to just be dragging on, and it's hard to stay locked in on it. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Next, The Lion and the Eagle, number 1. So this is actually based off of an actual operation that happened in World War II, where the British and the Indian Army kind of teamed up. British Special Forces, Indian Army. Kind of teamed up to kind of do this whole disruption, guerrilla type attacks throughout the Japanese supply lines and finding different enemies and just starting skirmishes, if you will, throughout, right? Havoc, if you will. It's interesting and it is accurate. I don't know if this is based off of a certain operation or not. A lot of that stuff, it is what it is. But I love Garth Ennis's writing. I love this book, but I just don't like the fact that it's a comic book or even a magazine, whatever you want to call this. This should have just all came out in one big trade paperback because it's hard to get hooked into a comic book enough for each issue to kind of pick up to where you want to take it, right? And there's just some stories that just kind of have these kind of dragged out parts in it. Like military operations are never as sexy as they are on TV. And this kind of added a bunch of those kind of intricate things. If you were in the military, you know what I'm talking about. That hurry up and wait type scenario. You get a lot of that in here. So even though I like it, I don't know if I would if I was to recommend it to somebody else, I'd be like, are you interested in the Pacific battles of World War II? If not, probably not going to like this. So yeah. So just some random pickups. Impulse buys this week. Super crazy impulse buys. I'm still trying to figure out why I picked these up, but I got them. So if you're a viewer of the channel, you know I picked up my She-Hulk stuff, Volume 1, Issues 1 and 2. And then I randomly saw this for a good price. This is Volume 2, Issue 1. I always like the kind of breaking the fourth wall covers of She-Hulk. They're kind of funny to me. Next, we got the What If number 4. This is what if Peter Parker kept the symbiote suit, spider suit. Number 145. I just like this cover. It's a classic Doom cover. Him holding up Storm there. So yeah, X-Men 145. Good stuff. Moon Knight stuff he had out, and I didn't have to dig for it, so I figured why not. Moon Knight number 42. Mark Spector. Right. Let's see here. Another one. Moon Knight. This is when, of course, he's hanging out with Punisher. And this is issue number 9. Right. And every time I see this cover, I pick it up because it's just so iconic. It just sticks in the old brain. I think this is like my 3rd copy of this. I mean, I picked up the other ones. I might as well pick this up too, right? So that's pretty cool. So I'm super happy to have those. Super, super happy. Good stuff. All right, so what's going on in the community? Let's see here. We got the hangout tomorrow morning with the Legion crew over at Legion of Comics. A bunch of the YouTubers there. And we got DJ Links Friday night over at his channel. He's doing his 2,000 sub push. Congratulations, DJ Links, on 2,000 people. That's a huge deal. That's winning right there. Good job on that. Let's see, Evil Air Project. We're currently working on the Flash and a Green Lantern ring for the Nor, or for, I haven't said who yet. I'm not going to yet. No, we're waiting for it. I'm making 2 rings for 2 people for a short month project. Or again, Flash and Green Lantern. So yeah, it's fun. It's a work in progress. We're going all out on this one. So yeah, a lot of man hours into it. Super fun. Super fun. All right, guys. Oh, I got GalaxyCon coming up this weekend. I'm heading out on Saturday to GalaxyCon. Maybe we'll get a little bit of footage. Maybe do a quick walkthrough. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely let me know. But more importantly, let me know what books you picked up. What did you find interesting in any of these books I've read? I really want to hear from you. All right, guys. I got nothing else. That's it. That's my show. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.